Islam Makhachev stands today as a champion, but long before the belts and the spotlight, there was a young boy shaped by the wisdom, discipline, and vision of one man, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov. This speech is a tribute to the mentor who never sought the fame, who never asked for recognition, yet built some of the greatest fighters the world has ever seen. Islam's journey is not just a story of talent and hard work, it is the continuation of a legacy carved through sacrifice, patience, and unshakable belief. Every lesson Abdulmanap gave became a foundation stone in Islam's life, and every win Islam earns is a silent message to the world that the teacher's voice still echoes in the heart of his student. Islam remembers the early mornings when the world was still asleep, but Abdulmanap was already awake, ready to shape the champions of tomorrow. Training was not just physical, it was mental, spiritual, and personal. Abdulmanap didn't just teach techniques, he built character. He taught Islam that discipline is louder than motivation, that humility is stronger than fame, and that greatness begins in the mind long before it shows in the arena. Those who trained under Abdulmanap didn't just walk out stronger, they walked out different. To Islam, Abdulmanap was more than a coach. He was a guide, a protector, and a father figure who saw potential before anyone else could. He demanded excellence, not for himself, but for the future of every fighter he trained. Even in silence, Abdulmanap's eyes told Islam what needed to be done. Push harder, stay focused, remember who you are, and never compromise your values. Under his guidance, Islam learned that victory is not something you chase, it is something you become. Years passed, challenges came, and obstacles tested Islam's spirit, but every time doubt appeared, he remembered the words Abdulmanap repeated again and again: hard work always wins when talent refuses to rest. These words guided Islam through injuries, setbacks, losses, and the pressure of expectations. They reminded him that a true warrior stands firm when the world tries to break him, and he carries that message into every camp, every round, and every moment of his career. When Abdulmanap passed away, the world of MMA lost a legend, but Islam lost a pillar of his life. The pain was heavy, but so was the responsibility, to continue the path his mentor had drawn. Khabib stood beside him, the brothers from Dagestan stood with him, but in Islam's heart, it was Abdulmanap's voice that kept pushing him forward. Every training session became a tribute, every sacrifice became a thank you, every victory became a message that the legacy lives on. Islam's rise to the top did not happen overnight. It was built brick by brick from Abdulmanap's teachings. When he fought for the lightweight title, he felt the weight of more than the belt. He carried the promise he had made to his coach. This was not just about becoming champion, it was about honoring the man who shaped him. And when Islam finally became the UFC lightweight champion, it wasn't just his victory. It was Abdulmanap's victory too, a fulfillment of a dream they shared long before the world noticed. But the true tribute to Abdulmanap isn't the belt, it's the way Islam lives. The humility he displays after every win, the respect he gives every opponent, the way he carries himself with calm strength, all of it comes from the lessons of his mentor. Abdulmanap taught that a fighter's heart matters more than a fighter's record, and Islam continues to show the world what that means. He is proof that legacy is not measured in words, but in actions repeated over a lifetime. Islam's bond with his mentor didn't end, they simply changed the way they walked together. In every fight, Islam feels him. In every challenge, he hears him. In every victory, he honors him. The world sees a champion, but Islam sees a man fulfilling the blueprint of greatness given to him by Abdulmanap. And that is why his journey is so powerful, not because of the belt, but because of the promise. Today, when young fighters look up to Islam, they don't just admire his skill, they admire the values he carries forward. They admire the dedication, the patience, the respect, and the strength of character that Abdulmanap installed in him years ago. Islam is not only a champion in the cage, he is a symbol of a legacy that refuses to fade. And as long as he continues to fight, that legacy will continue to inspire generations. Islam knows that champions come and go, but true mentors remain forever. Abdulmanap lives through every technique Islam perfects, through every challenge he overcomes, and through every young fighter who dreams of becoming the best version of themselves. The greatest tribute Islam can ever give to his mentor is to stay true to the path, to the values, and to the purpose he was taught. So when Islam steps into the octagon, it is not just a fight, it is a chapter in a story that began years ago in Dagestan, under the guidance of a man who changed lives. Abdulmanap may no longer be here physically, but his spirit stands in Islam's corner every single time. And as Islam continues to rise, he carries with him the legacy of a teacher whose impact will never be forgotten. This tribute is not just to the memory of Abdulmanap, but to the bond between a mentor and a student, a father and a son in spirit, a dreamer and a champion. Islam Makhachev doesn't just fight for himself. He fights to honor a man who taught him how to live, how to work, and how to become a champion long before he ever stepped into the cage. This is the legacy of Abdulmanap. And Islam will carry it for the rest of his life. Abdulmanap's vision for Islam Makhachev was never just about creating a fighter. It was about shaping a man who could carry discipline, honor, and purpose into every chapter of his life. From the earliest days, Abdulmanap saw something in Islam that others could not see: a quiet determination, a steady heart, and a mind that could absorb lessons deeply. He believed that greatness was not built on natural talent alone, but on the willingness to work when no one is watching, to grind through the difficult days, and to remain humble even when success begins to rise. For Abdulmanap, Islam was not just another student, he was a project of love, a warrior in the making, and someone he believed could one day represent Dagestan with pride on the world stage. He trained Islam with the same intensity he gave to all his students, but with an added layer of detail, because he understood Islam's potential. Every drill, every correction, every moment of guidance was intentional. Abdulmanap envisioned Islam not as a temporary fighter, but as a champion who carried the values of their culture, their family, and their faith. He understood that Islam's strengths lay not only in his physical abilities but in his discipline and calm nature. To Abdulmanap, those traits were the foundation of an unbreakable champion. Abdulmanap taught Islam that fighting is not about ego, but about responsibility. He instilled the belief that every victory must come with gratitude, and every defeat must come with self-reflection. He pushed Islam to master fundamentals, to become technically sharp, and to remain loyal to his training roots. His vision was long-term. He wanted Islam to rise slowly, steadily, and wisely, without skipping steps or seeking shortcuts. He believed that true champions grow with patience and consistency, and he made Islam understand that success without character means nothing. Through the years, Abdulmanap shaped Islam into more than a fighter, he shaped him into a leader. He wanted Islam to one day inspire others just as he had been inspired. This vision became even clearer as Islam matured, showing leadership in the gym, respect for teammates, and a hunger to continue learning. Abdulmanap recognized this growth and guided him toward becoming the future of their team long before the rest of the world realized it. Even now, long after Abdulmanap's passing, that vision lives within Islam. Every time Islam steps inside the octagon, every time he trains young fighters, every time he carries himself with humility and discipline, he fulfills a part of what Abdulmanap saw in him years ago. Abdulmanap didn't just envision a champion, he envisioned a man whose success would serve as proof that hard work, faith, and strong values can build something powerful. Islam carries that vision with honor, making every achievement a tribute to the mentor who believed in him long before the world ever did. The lessons that built Islam Makhachev into a champion were not taught in a classroom or discovered in the spotlight, they were lived every single day under the guidance of Abdulmanap. These lessons were not dramatic or loud, they were simple, consistent, and repeated until they became part of Islam's identity. Abdulmanap taught him that discipline is the backbone of greatness, that a fighter's true strength comes from routine, and that success belongs to those who show up even when they don't feel like it. Every morning training session, every tough drill, every demand for perfection was designed to teach Islam that champions are built long before they ever touch a title belt. Abdulmanap emphasized respect above everything else. He made Islam understand that a fighter must never lose control of his character, no matter the situation. Whether facing a difficult opponent or dealing with pressure, respect had to remain at the center. He believed that a humble heart leads to a clear mind, and a clear mind wins fights. Islam absorbed this deeply, learning to carry himself with calmness, maturity, and silence when others chose ego or chaos. Another major lesson was responsibility. Abdulmanap taught Islam that every technique he learned, every strength he gained, and every opportunity he received came with accountability. He was not just fighting for himself, he represented his family, his team, his culture, and the values he was raised with. This mindset pushed Islam to train harder, to stay focused, and to never take a day lightly. Responsibility made him dependable, confident, and consistent, traits that only sharpened as he grew into a world-class athlete. Abdulmanap also taught Islam the value of patience. He understood that rushing success destroys potential, so he made sure Islam progressed step by step. There were no shortcuts, no easy days, and no unnecessary risks. Islam learned that growth happens in silence, in repetition, and in moments when no spectators are watching. This patience allowed him to develop a complete skill set, to build mental toughness, and to rise through the ranks without fear or pressure breaking him. Perhaps the most powerful lesson was faith. Faith in the process, faith in the hard work, and faith in the purpose behind it all. Abdulmanap reminded Islam that a fighter without faith is a fighter easily shaken. But a fighter who trusts his foundation becomes unstoppable. Islam carried this belief into every fight, every camp, and every challenge. He became a man who doesn't panic, doesn't complain, and doesn't break. These qualities didn't appear out of nowhere, they were built through years of guidance. All of these lessons combined to form the champion the world sees today. Islam's calmness under pressure, his incredible discipline, his humility, his confidence, and his precision inside the octagon are all reflections of the teachings he received from Abdulmanap. These lessons didn't just build a fighter, they built a man who understands the value of hard work, loyalty, and purpose. And as long as Islam continues to fight, teach, and lead, he carries those lessons forward, honoring the man who shaped him into the champion he is today. Continuing the legacy with honor became Islam Makhachev's silent mission the moment Abdulmanap was no longer there to guide him. It wasn't something he announced, and it wasn't something he tried to prove to the world, it was a promise he made in his heart. Every time he steps on the mat, every time he helps a teammate, and every time he prepares for a fight, he carries forward the teachings of the man who shaped him. What Abdulmanap left behind was not just a team or a fighting style, it was a philosophy built on discipline, humility, and responsibility. Islam became one of the primary carriers of that philosophy, ensuring that the values of his mentor remain alive in every gym session and every moment of his career. Islam continues the legacy by staying true to the system that raised him. He doesn't seek shortcuts or adopt flashy trends, he sticks to the fundamentals Abdulmanap perfected over decades. The wrestling pressure, the relentless pace, the technical intelligence, everything that defined their team remains untouched. Islam trains the same way the older generation trained, keeps the same structure, and demands the same commitment from himself that Abdulmanap once demanded. In doing so, he shows the world that the foundation laid by his mentor was built to last, not just to create one generation of fighters but many. What truly honors Abdulmanap's legacy is the way Islam treats his teammates. He became a leader not by claiming the role but by living it. Younger fighters look up to him not only because he is a champion but because he carries himself with the same calmness, discipline, and respect that Abdulmanap taught. Islam stays after training to help others, shares the lessons he learned, and ensures that the next generation grows with the same mentality. This continuation of mentorship is exactly what Abdulmanap envisioned: knowledge passed down, values preserved, and fighters shaped not only by skill but by character. Islam also honors the legacy with the way he fights. He enters the octagon with purpose, not ego. He doesn't trash talk or seek extra attention, he lets his performance speak. He fights with intelligence, patience, and heart, just as Abdulmanap taught him. Every victory becomes a tribute because it reflects the thousands of hours he spent under his mentor's guidance. Even commentators often mention how Islam's style is a living reminder of Abdulmanap's genius, a direct continuation of the system that built champions before him. But the most powerful way Islam continues the legacy is through his humility. Despite becoming a world champion, he never distances himself from his roots. He returns to the same mountains, the same training grounds, and the same people who shaped him. He honors his culture, respects his opponents, thanks his team, and avoids the arrogance that fame can bring. This humility is what Abdulmanap valued most. And Islam living by it proves that legacy is not carried through words but through actions. By staying true to who he is, by remaining loyal to his upbringing, and by embodying the values of his mentor, Islam ensures that Abdulmanap's presence remains alive in every fight and every achievement. The world sees a champion, but behind that champion stands the guidance of a man whose teachings continue to echo through every step of Islam's journey. This ongoing tribute, quiet, steady, and sincere, is the purest form of honoring a legacy, a promise fulfilled is more than a moment of victory, it is the completion of a journey that began long before the world was watching. For Islam Makhachev, becoming a champion was not simply about achieving personal success, it was about honoring the belief that Abdulmanap placed in him from the very beginning. There were no loud declarations, no dramatic scenes, just a quiet understanding between a mentor and his student that one day Islam would rise to the top. Abdulmanap saw that potential in him when he was still a young boy, and he shaped him with patience, discipline, and unwavering confidence. When Islam finally became the UFC lightweight champion, it wasn't the belt that mattered most, it was the fulfillment of a promise he had carried in his heart for years. In that moment, Islam didn't just win for himself, he won for the man who had guided his entire path. He carried with him every lesson, every correction, every word of encouragement, and every expectation that Abdulmanap had ever given him. The world celebrated a new champion, but Islam felt something far deeper. The weight of his mentor's dreams resting gently on his shoulders, finally realized. It was a moment that connected past to present, reminding him of all the sacrifices both he and Abdulmanap had made to reach that point. But the promise did not end with the belt. Fulfilling the promise means living every day with the same values Abdulmanap instilled in him. It means remaining disciplined, staying grounded, and leading his team with integrity. Islam knows that success can be fleeting, but the legacy of a great mentor lasts a lifetime. So he carries that legacy forward by training harder than ever, by helping younger fighters rise, and by representing his culture with humility and strength. His championship journey is ongoing proof that the blueprint Abdulmanap created was perfect and complete. Even after reaching the top, Islam continues to grow with the same hunger, the same seriousness, and the same respect for the process that Abdulmanap taught him. A true promise fulfilled is not just a single achievement, it is a lifelong commitment to the standard set by the one who believed in you from the start. Islam honors that commitment every time he steps into the gym, every time he accepts a challenge, and every time he proves that hard work and discipline will always stand stronger than pressure or doubt. The world may see Islam's victories as moments of triumph, but he sees them as chapters in a story written long ago by his mentor. A story of sacrifice, dedication, and destiny. Abdulmanap's dream was not just to produce champions of the sport, but champions of character, and Islam living that truth is the greatest tribute he could ever give. With every milestone he reaches, Islam silently whispers to the man who shaped him, "We did it." The promise lives on.